Hi everyone and welcome to the Stories of Maasailand Webinar. My name is Estela Felix Almeida. I'm a Prescott College student, a transfer from Green Mountain College, and an intern of MERC, the Institute of Maasai Education, Research and Conservation. MERC exists for cultural survival of the Indigenous Maasai people. The webinar highlights the resiliency of the Maasai community, sharing the information gathered over the years about the Maasai tradition, culture, language, land, water, and food. The Maasai people today work very hard to maintain their culture and society intact in the face of their growing involvement in the global economy. Today we have two guests, Mary Poole, the co-director of MERC, and Suzanne Feaster, the chair of board of directors for MERC. We're also going to share a very impactful video sharing stories of students that have been involved in the program.
I met Maidame a couple of decades ago, and we began talking right away.
I had come to the United States in 1997 and met her dad in Seattle, and we became very good family friends.
I was in graduate school at the time. We began talking right away about what could happen if I got a job at a college that could partner with his work that he was doing in the Maasai community.
She loves teaching, she loves students very much, and while we were in Kenya, she just kept wondering about how her students would benefit from an opportunity to come and learn.
So we had a lot of excited conversations, and then I got the job at Prescott College, and it was like a rocket took off.
Now we can go forward with our original idea of bringing students to Kenya and educating them.
So the entirety of the colonial era under British rule, then there's independence, and then we have independent Kenya as a new political form, right?
Maidame's vision has been for cultural survival for his community, and so when we partnered up and began working closely together, it was around the idea that there could be a mutual benefit between American college students who very much, in my experience, desperately want to connect in real, genuine ways with the world.
Okay. I'll see how far I can get it over your head. Oh, yeah!
The first class was in 2004, and that class was actually created by Maidame and I, but also by a group of students who were determined. They were the ones that camped out in my office and said, "You have to take us with you."
I took a few classes with one of my now mentors, Mary Poole, and she was like, "You should come to Kenya." And I was like, "That's crazy." But we started fundraising, and soon it became clear that I was going to go to Kenya.
I remember when the students got there and cultural shock was the biggest problem. Right from Nairobi, you have students who are used to very comfortable life, running water in the taps, and students who ate anytime they wanted. And here they were in Nairobi and everything had to be planned.
So like after these long travels, very tiring, very bumpy, we arrived at camp. I was very surprised at how it was just delightful. It's just really delightful and sweet smelling with the acacia trees.
That first class, man, we didn't have a center, we didn't have a classroom. We had a whiteboard wedged between the limbs of a tree, and our biggest problem was that monkeys kept coming down and stealing the erasers and interrupting class. Today we have a full-blown center, well-developed, depth relationships with communities in Maasailand. Students today get to land into the middle of a lot of welcoming open arms and big smiles and people getting, ready to get to work.
Actually, what struck me first when I got there is the place itself. Maasailand, as we know today, the Serengeti and the Mara Wildlife Reserve, is just a vast, amazing landscape. People come from all over the world to see this place. It's on people's bucket list. They spend huge amounts of money to come and someday in their lifetime see it.
You know, there's always some people who come from our culture who are like, all right, let's go on a walk, let's go find lions. And any one of our Maasai friends will say, you're crazy, you know, like that's absolutely ridiculous, you don't do that.
This summer was one of the first times that I truly experienced what community, you know, has now come to like mean for me in my heart. We all worked together, lived together, washed our clothes together, and all hierarchy in between us that may have existed when we were in the US and in the first few days in the country just started to dissolve.
So what's unique about our program is that we completely follow the lead of the community. It's not just a philosophy for the sake of doing the right thing, it's also because that is how our program is successful.
Because of the relationship we've built up over 13 years with the Maasai people, we come and look at it through the lens of the Maasai. You can get to know them personally, you can sit up around a campfire and talk with them at night. Because we've been there for 13 years now, we built up a trust that you just can't get by going there for a week or two.
We spent a lot of time getting to know folks, you know, spending a lot of time understanding what it means to live in Maasailand and what it means to be doing grassroots work in Maasailand.
In 2008, the community asked us to look into a piece of land in Maunarok. It's a 30,000-acre piece of land that was taken under colonialization and never returned even after independence.
So we have accomplished research into colonial and then post-colonial records on how specific land was taken from the community.
This led to a land rights case that went through the Kenya courts and also led to a huge social movement that swept Maasailand, all led by Maasai.
Summer of 2017, we partnered with an engineering school at ASU and brought 8 ASU engineering students over with their faculty, and we threw them into the classroom with the Prescott College liberal arts students and found that we just had a phenomenal collaboration.
We didn't have much of an agenda when we showed up. We were kind of mostly just told to go there and experience it and observe and just live in the moment and see what we could do or apply our expertise in any way we could.
If you want to make a difference in a third world country like this, working with indigenous peoples, you come up with better solutions if you've got the perspective of the sociologists and the social justice people and the perspective of the engineers and technicians.
They really took the role of implementing some of the new things there, and we were able to build some smokeless stoves with the help of Maasai Women's initiative. And so they go around and they implement all these stoves, and that was a collaborative construction project that we all got to be a part of.
In 2016, we had a large class for the Mara Guides training program, and it was really exciting because on graduation day, it was also the day of the Mara Guides Association launch. So there was a huge celebration where our guides were honored in their graduation, but we were also celebrating the Mara Guides Association launch. It's a union within the Indigenous community. It's actually the first Indigenous union in Kenya, and Maasai worked with the guides for over 2 years to get this registered with the government, so it was a really big deal.
I can say thank you for the program that was run by Prescott. It is something that I will never forget in my life, especially my teachers. And you know, my teachers know more about clans even more than me, because the clans come from their countries. So they really know who these clans are.
Having the Arizona State University students and Prescott College students together was just this model of what the world actually looks like, to have these interdisciplinary conversations where everyone is challenged to look at something from another perspective.
So when we got there, we found that there's a group that makes these gravity lights, which are gravity-powered lights. So we ended up putting 3 of those up. We put one in the kitchen, one outside the bathrooms, and one in the dining area.
First of all, irrespective of your career, you are a human being. That's the most important thing to remember, that whether you are an engineer, social scientist, or whatever, you are a human being.
community members would, I think, love to see all of us come back. I mean, they made quite an impression on me. I think I made an impression on them, and it's not a relationship that I would want to just throw away after one summer.
I can't imagine not going back. My life has developed simultaneously with my friends and colleagues there. Most of my closest relationships are with people in Maasailand.
I had a lot of friends I didn't want to leave that were at camp and in Kenya. I cried, I was sad, I didn't want to leave them. But now you feel like you have more family, other places, and more people to support you and help you with things.
The sunsets are really beautiful there. Nothing you would ever experience in the US.
It was an awesome experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. The rewards you get out of it are amazing.
Check it. Water's gone for 12 minutes. Spot on the dot.
I would encourage students to explore it as an option and maybe not even realize in what ways it's going to change their perspective or their work, but trusting and knowing that it will.
Students today need to become global citizens. They need to understand what's happening throughout the world. And the cutting edge of what's happening in democracies right now, much of it is happening in Africa. And Kenya is the center of much of that.
We're building a 5-year plan. So we want to see our center become a hub of activity for the use of the Maasai community, into which students from outside can land and become immersed in interesting, good work.
Our next steps to expand the program to be able to handle the participating institutions, because right now we are small. We have a very well-established center, but I think that our goal is to expand the program to be able to house all our students, to be able to house Maasai students that we want to be part of the program and learn with the American students. We want to be able to explore areas where solutions to, say, environmental distractions can be resolved. So expanding our program would be able to look into these areas and harness the skills and the knowledge that the resources that these students from America bring to Maasailand.
We're very excited about the future, and it's very much underway.
Awesome. So seeing that, we can start with introducing our first guest, Mary Poole.
Hi, I'm Mary Poole, and as you saw from the video, I am a faculty member at Prescott College in Arizona, and I'm also the co-director of the Institute for Maasai Education, Research and Conservation, or MERC, and I share that honor with Maitame Loldapash, who you just met also.
You've been working closely with the activists of the Indigenous Maasai community for decades. Why do you care about the survival of the people halfway around the world from where you were raised and live?
I think that's a great question. I actually got lucky early in life through happenstance, because it turns out that what I learned is that in spite of the fact that we're separated from East Africa by a big ocean and 2 continents, we actually are not separated at all. We are very necessary to each other. I learned early on that the wealth and opportunity that we experience in what we refer to as the developed world actually is drawn a lot from the lack of opportunity in Africa as a whole. I'll speak for the continent here, and I'll give you one example of how our opportunity here is a result of a direct transfer of value from Maasailand. There's a place in Maasailand by Mount Kilimanjaro where there's a tremendous source of water beneath the surface of the ground because of the mountain, on a savanna that is very dry and actually experiences pretty severe droughts at different times of the year. There's plenty of water, but the water that exists there for the people and their cattle is is taken underground through a system of piping that was put into place under colonialism, that takes the water up to outside of Nairobi, where there are vast cut flower industries. And so Kenya, Maasailand itself, the water of Maasailand, actually creates the conditions for me here in the US to be able to buy cheap cut flowers. The expense of the flowers, which are exported out of Kenya to the West, the cost of those to me is a direct relationship to the inability of Maasai people to get enough water to survive. And so that's a microcosm, a little example of a much bigger dynamic. And so you might think that learning about this relationship, that my own personal privilege is directly related to the oppression of people in East Africa, you might think that that would be a depressing revelation. And in fact, it's been the opposite. It's been the core of my own personal liberation as a human being in the world, because it enabled me to feel a connection that feels a lot like other kinds of connections I think we as beings, human beings, feel with each other. And so I wanted my students at Prescott College to get to experience that connection themselves, and also wanted to live the rest of my life in an ethical relationship with the world.
When you talk about connections and you talk about Prescott College students, what do you most want to get across to the students and the Maasai community members by bringing them together?
There's so much that Maasai people just express to me that they long to learn about the world. They are limited in their access to information, you know. So the Maasai community that we have worked with in out of the Dopoi Center, it's been a tremendous sharing of the wealth of knowledge and information, and also relationships. People learn from each other. As Steve said in the video, the guide who talked about the importance of learning, you know, about the world for their work in tourism, reforming tourism. It goes much bigger and deeper than that. For my own students from Prescott College, what I want is for them to be shaken out of their the limits of their current imagination about what is possible, because we have a tremendous amount to learn from the resilience of Maasai culture and economy, willingness to sacrifice for the good of the whole, and just deep ecological knowledge of their place and commitment to the future of it.
As we talk about the future, what is the new version of global development? You and Maydame have been developing an approach to locally directed development. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we have been involved in that, and we've had some tremendous partners. Our vision is really born of the Maasai community's own vision, that it would be invited to have an equal seat at the table, where development is discussed and where resources are allocated and directions are determined. So one of the examples of that work has been with Rotary International. We've done 4 big, huge water projects that have been brought hundreds of Rotary clubs together, and Maasai people. The Maasai community has formed local organizations, committees to design the projects, the water projects, to determine where the piping would go, how to avoid elephants, you know, who can bust into water projects and destroy them, who understand the social landscape to make sure that all the people are equally cared for. Those women that you saw in the video that are getting water out of a stream that's been polluted, those are the experts about water in Maasailand. They understand where rain falls, under what conditions, where it can be collected. And they also understand and are committed to water never being used to unbalance wealth in the community, and that it's always equally shared. and also shared with the wildlife. It's pretty incredible. So our goal for our approach to development is to follow the lead of the people who know most about what needs to be done to develop in a sustainable way, and that is the Maasai community, and then to find partners. And our second big partner in development has been Arizona State University and its Global Resolve partner program, and they have provided technical knowledge, engineering skills to a variety of projects. So that's pretty exciting. They're great partners, and we are exploring together what the future can look like from a Maasai-driven perspective.
When you talk about the impact of MERC, what do you think attributes to MERC's successes?
Well, I think it is this local leadership, and I think it's extremely rare. MERC was started before I ever came on board, or before Maasai left Maasailand to come to the U.S. to meet partners here, to find them. Maybe 35 years ago, MERC was started by Maasai and a few other young people at that time in Maasailand who wanted to amplify the voice of the community, because people in Maasailand were organizing around to meet their own needs and their own futures, and to organizing around injustices around land, especially. And MERC started there. It started as an advocacy umbrella organization, conservation organization. So I think what's unusual about MERC is both the longevity of the organization, the depth of its representation of Maasai people, and of the traditional leadership of Maasailand, which exists and is very strong and has a tremendous impact on the community's cohesiveness. And so there's something like 20,000 non-governmental organizations in Africa, and many of them are working in Kenya, some in Maasailand. But MERC really does stand out on the landscape for its accountability to the leadership of the Maasai people.
When looking into the future, what are some cutting edges that MERC will be contributing to, or what do you think will be the future of MERC?
Well, right now, in this moment, we're dealing in Maasailand with a coronavirus pandemic, like everyone across the world is. One of the great things that is happening, not just in Maasailand but across Africa, is that, and people in the West are starting to recognize that the continent of Africa has done a pretty amazing job of containing this pandemic, which flies in the face of expectations in the West that there was going to be a brush fire across the continent. But actually, African countries have tended to have a lot of systems put in place, public health, for example, and education. So Maasailand, wow, as you can see in this picture, people started immediately masking up last March, and they started organizing as a community to figure out how to care for their elders, not abandon anybody, but also to maintain social distancing, and they just figured it out. And so there are, as far as I know, still no cases of coronavirus in Maasailand. However, as the picture also demonstrates, the big issue in Maasailand has been hunger. The tourism industry, which is the biggest and most important industry in much of Maasailand, has been all but completely shut down through the pandemic. And also food supply chains have been very challenged, and so a lot of Maasai people have been experiencing hunger. And this is a picture of Maasai distributing some food through some money generated through MERC. So Maasai are also practicing their own medicine, their traditional medicine. They have something like 50 different kinds of tree barks and herbs that are used in different combinations for different viruses. So the community has not been slowed down by on many fronts of our collective work. And so we haven't really stopped because of the pandemic. We're building out the Dopoi Center, developing an ability to teach from the center. The center itself is a tremendous of value to the community for organizing, having space for big meetings, and so one of the things that you learn when you get close to this community is just the tremendous resilience of the people. They're used to hardship, so it's not an unusual situation, and so I think that's where we are in this moment, and we have a lot of big initiatives moving forward that are maybe being slowed in the moment, but that are underway for sure. So yeah, I think that's where we are. It's a tremendously hopeful place to get to immerse in, and I feel privileged every day because of my opportunity to work in Maasailand.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this. We are going to introduce our next guest. She is the chair of the board of directors of MERC, Suzanne Feaster.
Thank you, Estella. I had always had an interest in college and in graduate school about particularly African studies. I participated in researching about the United Nations Environment Program with a focus on Tanzania at the time. So, and I'm an avid traveler, and my hobby is landscape photography, which the picture behind me shows a bit of that. And so I first went to Kenya as a tourist and absolutely fell in love with the Masai Mara, the reserve, the national park, because it's truly one of the best national parks in the world. And then I eventually joined the Prescott College board, and one of my very first meetings was Mary and the students who had just returned from a semester at the Dopoi Center, and was fascinated by all the work that was going on. So, and I participated in the part of a board group that went back to Kenya, so my second trip, and we helped with the, and got to see the final presentation that the students put together on the Mau Naruk Justice Program. So I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see a part of that, the students had spent the semester looking at the land rights because they had been taken away, land had been taken away from the Maasai during the colonial period. And the Prescott College students had found the documents dating back to that colonial era. And that led to a case being presented to the Maasai, or to the Kenyan National Court, and now work is being now national work is being done to return that land. My screen went dark, sorry for a minute. So I was involved then, and we helped. There was an 8-hour community meeting, half in Ma, half in English, and the board kept making sure they had tea and coffee and little desserts to keep them going and fortified, and it was really an amazing experience. And then I've been back again as part of the MERC board, and hope to go again this next summer to see some of the results of the work and our investments in the Dopoi Center.
As a leader in the U.S. base in solidarity work for many, many years, what is it about the Maasai community, the culture, the collective work, and MERC as an organization? What has fueled you to become more involved over the years?
It really is, as Mary said, it is the way they have, it is the relationship with the Maasai community out of respect, and that they are leading the work that we're doing. It is not a white dominant culture leading and saying we know best. It's really coming from the Maasai leadership and the Maasai community members themselves, that are directing it. So it's a very different model than a lot of the nonprofits that exist in even the Western world. So having there has been a lot of systemic racism in Kenya against the Maasai, and so letting them help them find their voice and leverage that power that they have is very important.
You've also been involved in various social services in Arizona, and I want to touch upon that. Do you see any common grounds between supporting the Maasai culture and their survival as well as healthcare in the U.S.?
Yes, Vitalist Health Foundation is a state Arizona-based foundation, and we're really known as being a catalyst for community health and building healthy communities. And our work has a growing emphasis of our work has been in tribal communities in Arizona, and there are a lot of similarities. They have faced structural racism and oppression, but our funding is oriented in much the same way that they come to us and say, here's what we want to develop to help build our own sustainable and resilient future. And then we help fund that and then also supply technical assistance. So I see a lot of similarities between the underserved groups that we're serving throughout the state, as well as, and just seeing the resiliency of people in the face of adversity is really inspiring.
I can tell that you love the Maasailand and you're very passionate, and your work here has been amazing. What is special about it?
It really is that we're working with them and the community. What is great about the Dopoi Center is, if you go to the next slide, it really is a place where we've been able to jointly and co-create. This is a slide of the Maasai Guides Association. We had seen that even in the Maasai Mara, Maasai were not being hired to be guides. And so they asked for some training. And so we developed a certification program, and virtually every Maasai man or woman that has gone through this training has been hired. And so that has created, again, a whole economic ecosystem that promotes sustainability but leverages the expertise that the Maasai themselves have. So, and the Dopoi Center has served as a gathering place, and here's an example of Maidame and Mary and some of the Maasai leaders. It really is, the research station is the only research station of its kind in the Maasai Mara, again, which is one of the top national parks in the world. And yet we're right on the edge of it, and it serves as a community gathering spot for Maasai community members, as well as places where students and faculty from around the world can come study in concert with the Maasai community themselves.
In East Africa, there's so many organizations. Why should someone support MERC? And what is special about it, and where is this money will go to?
If you go to the next slide, I think you'll, so we have developed the field station with donations and with some grant money. And so this is a picture of the main house, or actually it serves as the community center, part of the community center. And so donations to the MERC nonprofit go to help in completing this station so that faculty and staff can be there comfortably. And we're in the process of building a smart classroom to do internet and virtual classrooms where Maasai will be teaching Americans, and Americans will be teaching. We've got Maasai students at the community center, the Dopoi Center as well. So helping to build out that research capacity and the collaboration, the ability for collaboration is so strong. So what I would encourage everyone is to go on our website, you see that there on the slide, and make a donation, but also learn more. There are a large number of pictures, photos that give a sense of the kind of work we do, but it is important that we have everyone's help. So making a donation at this time will be very beneficial to the Maasai community. This is also the start of our webinar series. We'll be conducting other webinars in the future, drilling down on the Maasai Guides Association, the work at ASU and Prescott College, and some of the other aspects of this introductory video. So stay tuned for that, but please go to our website and take advantage of the resources that are there.
Thank you. Once again, these are the stories of Maasailand, the webinar, and we will be sharing stories very soon. Thank you again.